A beautiful woman secretly tapped her right cheek rhythmically in court. The heavily guarded death row inmate began blinking his eyes in a pattern after seeing it. It turned out she was using Morse code to help the prisoner escape. She had to write everything down with a pen. Just as the judge sentenced the prisoner to death in 2 days, he showed no panic at all because he had already worked out a crazy escape plan with his girlfriend. Following the information, Eva arrived at DeFabry Street and pressed the third brick from left to right. As the wall slowly opened, a modified supercar was revealed inside. Eva reached the 37-kilometer road marker. After the car emitted a signal, the mountain transformed into a giant stone gate. After driving into the facility, Eva entered the Morse code into a safe and, following her boyfriend's instructions, took a mysterious red potion. The next step was the most important. Eva changed into stunning clothes and went to see the Minister of Justice, who had secretly loved her for 3 years. The minister became completely enchanted by her and promised to do anything for her. Eva casually picked up a newspaper and said she wanted to meet the infamous death row inmate. The outrageous request shocked the minister. The prisoner was a notorious thief who had killed countless wealthy people and was considered extremely dangerous. But in order to win Eva's affection, the minister reluctantly agreed, on one condition. Eva had to accompany him when meeting the prisoner. After greeting the prison warden, the minister successfully brought Eva to see the death row inmate. During the execution, the sheriff suddenly sensed something strange. Ever since entering prison, the prisoner had always looked dull and lifeless. The sheriff suddenly remembered finding many human skin masks in the prisoner's home. He immediately tried to stop the execution. The blade fell and severed Arthur's head. When Marco tore off the human skin mask, he discovered that the executed man was actually George, the Minister of Justice. No one knew when Arthur had disappeared. Everyone was stunned by the bizarre twist. Arthur had long prepared a mask of George's face, which was why Angela insisted the minister accompany her. George tried to interrogate Arthur. Angela injected him from behind. Arthur then picked the lock on his handcuffs. The potion injected into George soon took effect. The syringe contained a truth serum, causing George to confess all his years of corruption and reveal the safe's password. Angela then took out a yellow liquid that left people expressionless and paralyzed for 24 hours. They then used the prepared masks and calmly walked out of the prison under the warden's nose. As the police department's greatest mind, Marco decided to conceal the truth and secretly investigate. Meanwhile, Arthur disguised himself as George and arrived at the minister's office. Even the secretary noticed nothing unusual. Entering the room, Arthur opened the safe using the password George provided. Inside were criminal records and a bank key said to hold gold. While organizing the contents, Arthur overheard the secretary talking on the phone. After the call ended, the secretary checked the office, only to find it empty. Arthur had already escaped through a secure passage, calmly greeting the guards on his way out. Even when 2 policemen entered at the door, they failed to realize the criminal stood right before them. Arthur had fooled everyone once again. After getting into the car and removing the mask, Arthur knew George's identity could no longer be used. But he had already devised a perfect plan to steal the treasures hidden in the bank. The next morning, Angela arrived at the bank in a luxury car, disguised as a wealthy noblewoman. Pretending to deposit a priceless painting, she was actually inspecting the bank's security flaws to prepare for Arthur's heist. Inside the bank, she emphasized the painting's importance, prompting the bank manager to proudly explain their security system. The vault, she said, was made of massive hollowed-out steel reinforced with iron bars. Between the inner and outer walls was a sensitive alarm grid that would trigger instantly if touched, and police could arrive within 5 minutes. The manager then produced 2 keys. Only when both were inserted and turned simultaneously could the vault be opened. What the manager didn't know was that the painting stored inside actually concealed 2 carefully disguised laser cutters. Angela returned to the apartment while Arthur prepared for the real operation. At 5 p.m., the bank closed, leaving only 2 security guards on duty. At 5:20, the hidden laser cutters activated, slicing through the steel door with invisible precision. Before shutting off, the residual heat melted the steel without triggering the alarm grid. Arthur entered the sewer system using a special 3-pronged drill. He cut through the thick wall. With a little force, he pulled out the massive stone block. Prepared in advance, Arthur used a special probe to carefully slip through the narrow gaps in the metal mesh and dripped powerful acid onto the vault lock. He then opened the reservoir valve. Since the vault held 700 cubic meters, wearing a diving suit, Arthur waited. The guards remained unaware as the rising water eventually triggered the alarm system. They checked the surveillance and suspected a leak. So they shut off the alarm and called the female manager because only she had the vault key. But all of this had already been anticipated by Deberlich. Remotely activating a device, he caused a roadside tree to fall and trap the manager en route. Seizing the chance, Deberlich swam into the vault, opened the minister's safe effortlessly, and stole the priceless jewels and Patek Philippe watches inside. The detective had already arrived outside the vault with his men. By accident, he had discovered evidence of the minister's corruption and traced the hidden stolen money to the bank. Seeing the abnormal situation at the vault, he instantly realized Deberlich was robbing the bank and immediately surrounded the building with police. Eva witnessed everything and rushed to help, but police stopped her and recognized her identity. She knocked them out with hidden weapons and reached the rendezvous point, only to discover every sewer exit guarded by police. Using the same trick again, she incapacitated 2 officers, allowing Deberlich to escape. Yet the harbor was also heavily guarded. Eva had no choice but to use throwing knives, quickly taking down the officers guarding the area. Just when escape seemed possible, a gunshot rang out, and she was hit in the arm. The detective had anticipated her plan, but he overlooked one thing. Deberlich was no longer fighting alone. Eva suddenly emerged from the water and knocked the detective unconscious with a blow. Deberlich seized a chance to grab the gun. Even so, Deberlich chose not to kill the detective because he was a gentleman thief who only stole from corrupt officials and tyrants. Finally, he and Eva escaped on a speedboat. Not long afterward, Eva appeared by the sea in light summer clothing, while Deberlich had already retired from crime. Together, they lived a carefree and happy life.